Then we have this shot, which I absolutely love. Negan, Father Gabriel, and Aaron. And this goes back to what I was saying about they are making it seem like there's some tension between Negan and Aaron. So Negan says, look man, if it's all the same to you, I should just stay here and pick tomatoes and bury corpses. Talking to Father Gabriel. And then Gabriel says, you can fight, you are low on fighters, referring to Aaron. Peanut butter, meat jelly. You know, they don't necessarily see eye to eye always. And that kind of relates back to what I said. There is some sort of tension, or they're building some sort of tension between them. Then we have Negan commenting on Aaron's mechanical arm, which I absolutely loved. He said, that's awesome, good on ya. And Aaron looks at the arm, and Negan says, putting the old stuff to use. So they are reusing old stuff to build new stuff. And Aaron has this kind of face, which is what I used to make that bold prediction that there's some tension between them. It's a face of, that's funny, but I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. So absolutely interesting there. Then we have this shot of Rosita killing some walkers, and Laura, the savior, killing some walkers here. Judith killing some walkers in this shot, and Magna killing some walkers in this shot. And this shot, which is at Oceanside. We have Alden here. He's throwing this, and then we have Daryl in the background there. Then we have this shot of Michonne taking out her katana and running towards something. Then we have this shot of someone boxing, and I think it's Rosita, so Rosita's boxing or training. Then we have this shot of Carol saying, you ever wonder if this is all there is? And she's talking to Daryl. We will see that later. This goes back to just why are they living? Why are they surviving? That whole kind of concept. We have this shot, which is Michonne looking at the Whisperer. Now, I think this is a new Whisperer. I could be wrong, but I think it is. And it could be Gamma, the new Whisperer that they're going to bring in. During a San Diego Comic-Con panel of The Walking Dead, one of the producers revealed that there's going to be 2 new characters introduced this season. One of them was a Whisperer called Gamma. So this could definitely be that character. Now, I'm not sure why Michonne is there. Maybe she's captured. Maybe not, but there's definitely blood on the knife right there. So that's interesting. I wonder what they're gonna do with this and, you know, what this is all about. Then we have this shot of Beta and some walkers. Love that we have a shot of Beta in this trailer as well. I wish we got a little bit more from Beta. Then we have this shot, which is again at Oceanside. We have Magna, Judith, Deanna, I think that's the Kingdom member, and Michonne. And we have Connie in the back. Then we have this shot of Daryl, again talking to Carol. Daryl says, sometimes I think we're just surviving one fight to the next. No more fighting. And this connects back to what Carol asked, which is, do you ever wonder if this is all there is to it? You know, to surviving and to life nowadays. So I think this relates back to that. Then we have this shot of Oceanside. So I think this is them training for the coming up war, most likely. Then we have this shot of Carol. She's pretty emotional. And we have a pretty interesting shot of Daryl hugging Carol. So somewhere in the world, Daryl-Carol shippers are going crazy. I don't know what they're gonna do with them. Then we have this shot of Aaron and some other survivors. This is at the hilltop. Then we have this shot, which is pretty cool. This is most likely at the ocean side. This is an abandoned ship or a run-down ship. We have some walkers inside, and we have Jerry and Ezekiel trying to clean house and kill the walkers. Love that. Then we have this shot of, again, the survivors at the ocean side, most likely doing some training. Then we have this shot of Father Gabriel looking at something inside Negan's cell. Then we have this shot of Magna and Yumiko on horseback. Then we have this shot of Daryl and Carol talking. Daryl says something like, get on the bike and go, or something similar. I could be entirely wrong about that. I listened to this like 10 times. I couldn't figure it out. Then we have this shot of Daryl on the motorcycle and Carol in the back. Love that. Then we have Daryl and Carol again. Carol says, head out west. Then we have this shot of a small boat. And I think we have Michonne in there. So we have Michonne and someone else in there. So very interesting, very cool. Then we have this shot of Oceanside members. They are fishing, it seems. Then we have this shot of Luke and Kelly. They're hugging and everything. Magna and Connie there too. We have this shot, which I thought was pretty cool. And it's a callback to Michonne's story in the comic book. But we have Michonne and they have a boat there. They're setting up some sort of boat. So that's pretty cool. So I think either they are following Michonne's comic arc from the comic book, which makes sense. If Michonne is leaving in season 10, they could definitely make her go that way. But it could also be the case that this is just an Easter egg for that, and Michonne is not really going to leave that way. I'm more leaning towards Michonne leaving in a way where she's gonna go after Rick and she's gonna appear in the movies. Then we have this shot, Jerry and his children and dog, they are at the oceanside. Then we have this shot of Michonne, RJ, and Judith. Then we have this shot of Father Gabriel and Rosita. And this shot of some survivors. Not exactly sure who they are, but there's flames in the background, which is interesting. Then we have this shot of Daryl and Lydia. Lydia's crying and Daryl is pretty much acting like her parents in a way, trying to make her feel better. Then we have this shot of Rosita's baby. Eugene is just measuring things. I think what Eugene is doing is just making sure the baby is healthy and growing up in a healthy way. Then we have this shot of Yumiko and Magna, a steamy scene between them. Then we have this shot of Luke and Judith. Not exactly sure what they're doing. Love Luke's weapon though. I think that's a pretty interesting weapon. Then we have this shot of Jerry, Carol I think in the background, Aaron, Connie, and Daryl. Then we have this shot of Michonne hugging Judith. Michonne says, somehow it's harder the second time around. Especially when you get used to having someone there. Referring to Rick, obviously. Not exactly sure who she's talking to. But we have this shot of Carol. Again, this is the pole. Most likely the exact same one that had Henry's head on it. Goes back to what I said earlier about trauma and PTSD and everything. But she's definitely visiting that site again. Then we have the hilltop necklace that was made in season 9. So they brought that back, which is interesting. We have Michonne saying partner in crime. Obviously referring to Rick right now. And this goes back to what she says when you get used to someone being there. But then we have this shot. Michonne kissing Ezekiel. It's very interesting. Not exactly sure what I think about that or how I feel about that. Obviously, Carol is still there. So what are they doing there with Ezekiel and Carol and Michonne and Carol and everything? But also, is Michonne really just moving on? That's very interesting. Then we have this shot of Carol again at the Pike's site. This shot, which I think is very interesting. We have Magna saying, if we get caught on their side of the border, that's it. That's a war. So that's referring to the Whisperers. So it seems like someone is making a decision to cross their borders, to cross the Whisperers' borders. Maybe Cindy is doing it. So we do see Cindy from Oceanside here. So maybe she's the one that makes that call, which is interesting. Maybe they need to cross it to do something, not necessarily go to war with them, but they want to get something, and the only way they could do it is if they cross the borders. And, you know, they did a similar thing in season 9 already in the finale, so they could be doing a similar thing. But like Magna says, this time it's war. So we have, obviously, Alden in the back, we have Deanna, we have Cindy, and we have Magna, and this is, again, at the Oceanside. Then we have this shot of Daryl at the Pike site. Then we have Michonne picking up her katana. Not exactly sure who's behind her here. Then we have this shot of Whisperers pointing their guns at the survivors, most likely. Alpha says, what did I tell you about crossing my border? So it seems like they did cross her border and they were caught. So very, very cool and interesting and exciting. So this seems to be the characters that crossed the border and were caught. So we have Lara, Michonne, Daryl, Carol, and some other survivors in the back. Alpha says you have to be punished, making it seem like she's gonna kill more people. And I love Carol's response. She says, bitch has to die. I think that's a very interesting and badass line. Then we have this shot of some survivors running. This shot as well. So we have Connie and some others running away. We have this shot again of some people running. Then we have this shot, which is at Oceanside. We have Yumiko, Magna, Connie, and Judith. And Michonne, obviously, we see the katana. Then we have this shot of Daryl running in the woods. And this shot of Alpha running in the woods, which is pretty interesting. Then we have this shot of Carol shooting the bow and arrow. And Deanna shooting the bow and arrow. And this shot of Rosita and Eugene. Rosita asks, you want to go back, don't you? And Eugene answers, I could go all night, which is pretty cool. And then he kills this walker here. This seems to be the entrance of the Alexandria safe zone, which is pretty interesting. We have this shot of Sadiq killing some walkers. This shot, which I absolutely love. We have them with some sort of armor, and I think they're training for the coming up conflict. But we have Aaron, who we see here, and we have Rachel from Oceanside. The rest of the people I don't necessarily recognize, but we do have Michonne and Magna and Connie in the background that we see as well. We have this shot of Beta and some Whisperers, which is pretty cool. We have this shot of Errol, Sutton, killing some walkers. Absolutely love that. So Errol obviously is the husband of Tammy Rose, whose head was on the pikes at the end of season 9. Then we have this shot, which I absolutely love. We have Luke, we have Aaron there as well, and Deanna and everyone else in the background. Then we have this shot of Carol. Alpha's heard in the background saying, "This is my land now." Then we have this shot of our hilltop, and some walkers are either getting killed or walkers are just falling. Then we have this shot, which I found very interesting. So this is at Oceanside. We have Michonne here, but we have this guy with the armor. So he moves to the right just as the walker is approaching. And then, boom, Judith shows up and kills the walker. So I absolutely loved that scene. I thought that was pretty cool and interesting. Then we have this shot of Yumiko and this shot of Alpha saying, "You better run." Then we have this shot of some fire in the background and some walkers. Then we have this shot of Connie, Kelly, and Yumiko. And then this shot of Michonne and Judith together killing walkers. They have the same exact pose, which I absolutely love. They both have their own katanas. Absolutely love that. Then we have this shot of Michonne killing a bunch of walkers. Again, there's fire in the background. This is taken exactly from the image that was released recently, the first look image at season 10. Then we have this shot of Michonne again killing walkers, and there's fire around. They're surrounded by it. Michonne said, "It is going to get worse before it gets better. We aren't going to get through it at all if we do not act as one." So she's trying to unite everyone and try to do the opposite of what she did before, which is separate them and drive them apart. We have this shot of the same area. We have Daryl killing a bunch of walkers. Then we have Alden, and then we have Daryl using the crossbow to kill some walkers probably. Then we have this shot of some walkers, and we have this shot of Alpha. She says, "Me, you should fear me." And she's obviously whispering that, but I absolutely love that specific scene. I thought that was pretty cool in the trailer. Then we have this shot, which I thought was pretty cool. I love the Daryl-Carol chemistry in this specific scene. Daryl says, "I'm sorry if I didn't want my best friend to spend their whole life on a boat." He is referring to Carol as his best friend, if you didn't catch that, which is pretty interesting. Then we have Carol saying, "Best friend, what are you, 10? So, some comedic lines here and there from Carol. Love that. Then Carol says, "Should we have matching bracelets now?" And Daryl says, "Forget it." And Carol says, "No, I could make some. Fisherman's twine, decorate them. It'll be very cute on tiny little seashells." Then we have Daryl saying, "I got an idea. Why don't we eat and not talk?" That was pretty cool. Now, this specific dialogue, "I got an idea. Why don't we eat and not talk?" I feel like this was more Norman Reedus than it was Daryl Dixon, but I absolutely love that. And then obviously the date that season 10 is going to premiere is October 6th. Looking forward to it. Absolutely exciting trailer. And obviously we were thinking or speculating that they're going to give us something crazy at the end of the trailer, which they did, the post-credits in a way. We have Michonne, who looks a little different, looks a little weird, but she's wearing a leather jacket. A leather jacket that looks like Negan's leather jacket. She points Lucille at the camera. So Michonne is wearing a leather jacket with Negan's Lucille. So obviously they made this scene look identical to the scene where we had Negan pointing Lucille. I think they're doing that for a reason. Not exactly sure what they're doing, but I'm absolutely interested. This is one of the things I'm very, very interested to see in season 10. But that's basically it for this trailer breakdown. It was extremely long. Hope you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned for my breakdown for the season 5B trailer of Fear the Walking Dead. And make sure to check out my reaction to the Fear the Walking Dead trailer, to the Walking Dead trailer, and the Rick movie. It's all on the channel. You can go and check it out. That's it for this video. See you next time for another super video. If you like what you see, press like, subscribe for more content, and press the bell button to receive notifications for daily uploads.